What's the creepiest thing you've seen other families do that they accepted as totally normal? My friend in high school had a family rule that everyone had to weigh themselves every morning in front of the whole family. There was a scale in the kitchen, and every single morning before breakfast, each family member had to step on it and announce their weight out loud. The mum kept a logbook where she wrote down everyone's weight and tracked it over time. If someone gained weight, their meals would be monitored for the next week. If someone lost weight, they'd be praised and allowed to choose what the family ate for dinner. My friend was 13 when I met her, and she was already obsessed with her weight. She skipped meals and exercised constantly because she didn't want to disappoint her parents at the morning weigh-in. I went to a sleepover at her house once and had to witness the whole ritual. Her little brother, who was maybe 9 years old, stepped on the scale and had gained 2 pounds. The mum sighed and said, "Looks like someone's been sneaking snacks. We'll have to watch you this week." The kid looked so ashamed. I felt terrible. When it was my friend's turn, she stepped on the scale and had lost a pound. Her parents clapped and congratulated her, and she beamed with pride. When it came to me, I said I didn't feel comfortable weighing myself in front of everyone. The mum replied, "It's nothing to be ashamed of. We're just keeping everyone healthy and accountable." I refused. She got upset and said I was teaching her daughter bad habits by being secretive about my body. By the time we were 16, my friend had developed an eating disorder and had to be hospitalized. Her parents still didn't see anything wrong with their weigh-in system. They said it wasn't their fault, that she had just taken it too far. I had a friend whose family practiced something they called emotional training. They believed that intentionally scaring their children would build resilience. They'd hide in closets and jump out. They'd wake the kids up in the middle of the night, screaming. They'd tell them scary stories and then make them sleep alone in the dark. They genuinely believed this would make their kids tough and unafraid of anything. I witnessed it myself when I stayed over one night. We were watching a movie when suddenly the lights went out. Her dad came running into the room, wearing a mask and screaming. Her younger siblings started crying. Then her dad pulled off the mask and said, "See? You're fine. Nothing to be afraid of. It was just Dad." The kids were shaking and terrified, but the parents acted like it was a fun game. My friend told me this happened all the time. Her parents would deliberately create scary situations to test them. Once, her mum told her that someone had broken into the house and that she needed to hide. My friend hid in a closet for 2 hours before her mum finally came and got her, laughing, and said it was just a drill to see if she knew what to do in an emergency. My friend said she used to have nightmares constantly and was afraid to sleep. Her parents said that was the point, that she needed to learn to face her fears. I told her this sounded like psychological abuse. She said no, they were just preparing them for the real world. When we got older, she admitted she had severe anxiety and serious trust issues. She said she could never fully relax because she was always waiting for the next scare. Eventually, she cut off contact with her parents, because even as an adult, they would still try to scare her when she visited. My friend's family had a punishment they called the silent treatment, but not in the normal way. If someone in the family did something wrong, the entire family would stop acknowledging that person's existence for a set period of time, usually 24 to 48 hours. They wouldn't respond when the person spoke. They wouldn't look at them. They would act like the person wasn't even there. I witnessed this happen to my friend's younger brother, who was maybe 12 years old. He talked back to their dad, and as punishment, the whole family went silent on him for a full day. He asked questions, and everyone ignored him. He tried to join conversations, and they talked around him like he didn't exist. By the end of the day, the kid was in tears, begging for forgiveness. My friend said this was more effective than any other punishment because the isolation was unbearable. She said she'd experienced it many times herself, and it always broke her down completely. I told her, "This is psychological torture. You're literally pretending a child doesn't exist." She said it teaches respect and consequences, but the damage it did was obvious. My friend was terrified of conflict or making mistakes because she knew the silent treatment was always looming. She'd apologize for things that weren't even her fault, just to avoid it. When she got to college, She started having panic attacks if her roommates didn't respond to her immediately because she thought they were giving her the silent treatment. Her family still uses this punishment on each other, even now that the kids are adults. If someone misses a family event or doesn't call often enough, the rest of the family will collectively ignore them until they apologize. My girlfriend in college invited me to meet her family for Thanksgiving, and I quickly realized they had some very strange traditions. The weirdest one was what they called family confession time. After dinner, everyone sat in the living room, and one by one, each family member had to confess something they'd done wrong that week. It started innocently enough. Her dad said he'd been short-tempered at work. Her mum said she'd gossiped about a neighbor. Then it got darker. Her younger sister, who was maybe 14, confessed that she'd had impure thoughts about a boy at school. Her dad made her describe in detail what those thoughts were. I was horrified. This was a child being forced to talk about her sexual feelings in front of her entire family, including me, a stranger. Then it was my girlfriend's turn. She confessed that she'd lied to her parents about where she was the previous weekend. She'd said she was studying, but she was actually with me. Her parents looked at me with pure anger and disappointment. Her dad said, "We'll discuss your punishment later." Then they turned to me and asked if I wanted to confess anything. I said, "No, thank you. I don't feel comfortable with this." The entire family went silent. Her mum said, "If you're going to be part of this family, you participate in our traditions." I told them I wasn't sure I wanted to be part of a family that forced people to share their most private thoughts. Then I left. My girlfriend called me later, crying. She said her parents had forbidden her from seeing me because I was a bad influence. We broke up not long after. Years later, she reached out to me and told me she'd gone to therapy and finally realized how messed up her family was. She said confession time had been a way for her parents to control them, to keep them feeling guilty and ashamed so they'd be easier to manipulate. My college roommate came from a family that practiced what they called transparent living. It meant there were no secrets of any kind. Every piece of mail was opened and read by her parents. Every phone conversation was on speaker. Every text message was screenshotted and shared in the family group chat. My roommate had absolutely no privacy growing up. Her parents read her diary, monitored her internet history, and even installed cameras in her bedroom. They said it was all to keep everyone accountable and honest. When she got to college, she went wild. She'd never had freedom before and had no idea how to handle it. She told me everything about her life because that's what she was used to. I'd say, "Some things can be private," and she'd just look at me, confused. She told me her parents still expected daily reports, what she was doing, who she was with, what she was thinking. If she didn't send updates, her parents would call the campus police to do a wellness check. That happened twice. They also expected her to send photos of her homework to prove she was studying, photos of her meals to prove she was eating, photos of her room to prove it was clean. The level of control was insane. I helped her start setting some boundaries, and her parents immediately accused me of turning their daughter against them. They said their family worked because of transparency and that I was teaching her to be secretive and dishonest. Eventually, she had to get a restraining order against them. They showed up on campus unannounced multiple times, demanding to search her dorm room. She's in therapy now, working through the realization that what her parents called love was actually surveillance. I had a boyfriend in high school whose family had a punishment system that still makes me uncomfortable to think about. They had a wall in their basement with hooks, and hanging from those hooks were different paddles. Each one was labeled with a family member's name. When someone in the family did something wrong, the parents would decide which paddle to use and how many swats that person would get. I saw this firsthand one day when my boyfriend's little sister spilled juice on the carpet. His dad calmly said, "Go get your paddle." She went downstairs and came back with a wooden paddle that had her name carved into it. She handed it to her dad, then bent over while he hit her 5 times with it. She was crying and saying she was sorry, but he kept going until all 5 swats were done. My boyfriend told me this was normal. He said it taught them consequences and respect. I said it looked like abuse. and he immediately got defensive. He said his parents never hit them in anger, that it was always controlled and measured, as if that somehow made it okay. The worst part was that the kids were made to keep their paddles. They had to take care of them, sand them down if they got rough. Each child was responsible for maintaining the tool of their own punishment. It was psychological torture disguised as discipline. I broke up with him not long after, because I couldn't be around that family. His parents thought they were teaching their kids responsibility, but all they were really teaching them was fear. When I was about 10, my best friend invited me to stay at her house for the weekend. Her family seemed nice enough at first, but at dinner that first night, things got weird. We all sat down to eat, and before anyone could touch their food, her dad stood up and said, "It's time for the ritual." I thought maybe they were just about to say grace, but no, her dad walked over to a cabinet and pulled out this old wooden box. Inside it was a lock of hair. He said it belonged to their grandmother, who had died 20 years earlier. He placed the box in the center of the table. Then everyone held hands and started humming. Not singing, just humming. A low monotone sound that went on for about 5 minutes. My friend acted like this was completely normal. When the humming stopped, her dad carefully put the hair back into the box and said, "Thank you, grandmother, for watching over us and providing this meal." Then everyone just started eating, like nothing strange had happened. I was so uncomfortable that I barely ate anything. Later that night, I asked my friend about it. She said, "Oh yeah, we do that every night. Grandmother's spirit lives in that hair, and we have to honor her or bad things happen to our family." I asked what kind of bad things. She told me that the last time they forgot to do the ritual, her little brother broke his arm the next day. I didn't sleep much that night, and I never went back to her house. Her family did that ritual every single night for years. They never questioned it. They never thought it was strange. When we got older, my friend told me she stopped doing it when she moved out. Her parents were furious. They said she was disrespecting the family and putting herself in danger. She said nothing bad ever happened to her, but her parents still do the ritual every night, to this day. My ex-girlfriend's family had a tradition they called the honesty circle. Once a week, they'd all sit in a circle and take turns telling each other their honest opinions about one another. No filter, no holding back. They claimed it kept resentment from building up, but in reality, it was just an excuse to be cruel to each other. I witnessed it once, and it was brutal. Her dad told her mum that she'd gained weight and needed to work out more. Her mum told her dad that he was boring in bed. Her older brother told my girlfriend she was stupid and would never amount to anything. My girlfriend told her younger sister that she was the favorite, and that everyone else was just tolerating her. It was vicious. By the end, everyone was crying. Then, somehow, they all hugged. They said they loved each other. They talked about how honesty was the most important thing in a family, like what had just happened was healthy or bonding. When it was my turn, they asked me to participate. I said, "No, this isn't healthy. This is just hurting each other." Her dad looked at me and said, "If you can't handle honesty, you don't belong in this family." My girlfriend defended them. She said it made them closer, that it meant they could say anything to each other without consequences. But I could already see the damage it was doing. She had zero self-esteem and constant anxiety. She genuinely believed that love meant brutal honesty, even when it was cruel. We broke up because she started using their honesty circle tactics on me. She'd tell me every little thing she disliked about me, and then expect me to thank her for being honest. Years later, I heard she'd cut contact with her family and was in therapy, trying to untangle the emotional abuse they'd labeled as honesty. I had a friend in high school whose family had a rule that you could never close your bedroom door all the way. Every door in the house had to stay at least halfway open at all times, including the bathroom. I found this out the hard way when I stayed over one night and went to use the bathroom. I closed the door and locked it, like a normal person. Within seconds, her mum was banging on the door, yelling, "Open it! Now!" I opened the door, confused and scared. Her mum said, "We don't close doors in this house. It's a rule." I apologized, and she stood there watching me until I went back to my friend's room, with the door wide open. Later, I asked my friend why they had that rule. She told me her parents believed closed doors allowed demons to enter rooms. They thought that if a door was shut, the space became isolated and dark forces could take over. So every door had to stay open, so light and energy could flow freely. That meant there was absolutely no privacy in their house. You could hear everything everyone was doing, all the time. Her younger siblings would walk into the bathroom while people were showering. Her parents would come into bedrooms without knocking because the door was already open. My friend said she'd never had a private moment in her entire life. She couldn't change clothes without someone potentially walking by. She couldn't have a phone conversation without everyone hearing it. When she went to college, she told me the very first thing she did was close and lock her bedroom door. Then she cried, because she'd never been able to do that before. Her parents still live that way. Every door in their house stays open, all the time. They think it keeps them safe from evil, but all it really did was make their kids desperate to escape. My husband's family has this thing where they take photos of each other sleeping. I mean actual framed photos on the walls. Family members asleep on the couch, in bed, slumped in chairs. I thought it was strange, but I tried not to judge. That changed the first time I stayed at their house. I woke up in the middle of the night and saw my husband's mom standing in our doorway with a camera. She took a photo of me while I was sleeping. When I sat up, startled, she smiled and said, "Oh, good, you're awake. Now I can get one with your eyes open too." I was completely confused and deeply creeped out. She told me it was a family tradition. "We document the peaceful moments," she said. Later, she showed me an entire album of photos of family members sleeping, going back decades. There were pictures of babies asleep, which felt fairly normal, but there were also photos of grandparents, teenagers, guests, everyone. They even had photos of people sleeping at funerals, actual photos of relatives lying in their caskets. My husband told me he'd grown up with this and never thought it was weird. Everyone in his family has their own album of sleep photos, and they give them to each other as gifts. I told him I wasn't comfortable being photographed without my consent, especially while I was asleep. He said I was being oversensitive, that it was just his family's way of capturing memories. That's where I drew the line. I told him that if anyone ever photographed me sleeping again, I wouldn't visit anymore. His mum was offended and said I was rejecting their family traditions. I didn't care. The idea of someone watching me sleep and taking photos without me knowing felt like a massive violation. They still do it with each other, and to this day, they think I'm the weird one for not wanting to participate.